Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to give you an update on my bamboo seedlings here. So these seedlings I've had probably for about 10 months now, and I'll give you a quick update about bamboo seedlings. So bamboo, if you don't know, only flowers once in its lifetime, and when that bamboo does flower, every single one of the same species will flower around the year at the same time. And it will only do it once in its life, and then once it's finished flowering it will die. So all of that one species of bamboo will die around the whole world within a couple of years of each other. They'll set lots of seeds, and then the only way you can propagate them is by seed. So I found flowering bamboo, which is very rare. There's probably one or two species flowering around the world every year, but to come across one in the UK that's flowering is probably maybe more like once every decade or something. I'm not sure what the statistics are. I've seen it once before, about 10 years ago, and this is the first time I've seen it here. And each bamboo, as I say, will flower once in its lifetime, but it can be anywhere between 20 years, every 20 years, or every 200 years. So there's a huge variance. So it's a good idea to propagate the seeds, as these are now going to be all dead. The only ones that are alive are going to be seedlings. Also, when you propagate from seed, you've got a chance of finding a new variety, which can be quite exciting. So these are the ones. All of these I've grown from seed. This one at the far end was actually a seedling already growing at the bottom of the mother plant. The rest I've propagated myself. And it's already quite interesting. There's quite a lot of differences in all these plants. Quite a lot of, I think, genetic variances. So it'll be interesting when these get bigger and the differences show up more and more. See how different they'll be and if there'll be any interesting features about them. So these are all the same age, amazingly. There's only a few, maybe a month or two difference at the most, but the size is huge. So this one is definitely the biggest and the best one. You can see it's really got a lot of growth. It's got a lot of stems. The stems are very thin though, but it's got a lot of height to it. And the leaves are a decent size as well. They're quite big, so that's definitely the best one. I'll get that in focus so you can see. It's really quite healthy looking. Quite happy with that. That's the best one by far. And these are all, I think these are all clumping forms, because if you look, they're all growing from the one place. They're not sending out any runners, but they're very young, so maybe they'll send out runners later, I'm not sure. The parents were a clumping form of bamboo anyway. So another one here is definitely different. You can see a huge difference in the type. The leaves are much smaller. The spaces between the leaves as well is much shorter, so it's a much more compact plant. And the stems are still quite thin as well. They're quite thin stem, these ones. So that's another one that's grown differently. And this one as well. Might not look so different from a distance, but if you look carefully, it's growing quite differently even to that other small one. It's tending to grow quite horizontal. It doesn't seem to want to stay up very much. It grows kind of like up and then down and kind of curves and twists. It seems quite unstable. I'm not sure if that's because the roots aren't stable yet, or if it's because it's the way it grows. Also notice that the leaves are very big, the same size as the leaves on the biggest plant over here, if not slightly larger. The distance between the nodes is shorter than this one though, and the whole plant is a lot smaller. And it tends to branch a lot more readily. You can see another little branchlet coming off there from an existing stem. So that's got quite a different growth form already, which is quite interesting. So these have all been grown in exactly the same way. They've all been on the same windowsill for about the same amount of time, same compost, same pots. So the only differences that should be arising from these three plants is their genetics. So it's very interesting to see how different they are. I mean, just look at the size difference and the leaf difference. It's almost like they're different species. I don't think they are, but when this plant flowered, if it did hybridize between another bamboo, then these could be different types of hybrids. So I'm not sure. We'll just have to see what happens when they get bigger. I also need to identify what species of bamboo it was, because I'm not an expert in bamboo, so I don't know what species the one was. And I've tried looking online. I can't find anything about which bamboo species flower when. That might tell me what it is, but I'll just have to try and take it to an expert in the future and find out what it is. So another one here. This has been in a different environment. This has been in a sealed unit, so it's been kept very humid. Because it's sealed, the oxygen and CO2 levels have probably been very low, so it's grown a bit slower. And this might have affected the way it's grown. But generally it's got quite small leaves, quite a weak growth really, but I think again that's the environment I've had it in. It's been sealed, there's been no air being able to get in and out. But you can see the leaves are a lot more narrow on this one. And this one's also leaning a bit, but I think that might be to do with it's the top of the container is about here, so it's touched the top and bent over. And then the last one is the one that's been growing outside on my balcony ever since I found it. And this was growing outside when I found it, so I've just left it outside. It almost died, but it's recovered since, and it's just never done amazing. It puts up the longer shoots, but the longer shoots, I think maybe the wind tends to dry off the leaves and the leaves die off, so it's all the shorter shoots seem to survive, and it's grown loads of little shoots. It's kind of hard to see how many there is in there, but there's a lot of small shoots, and every time they get to a certain height, the wind kind of kills them off, and they die back down. So I think they won't get much higher than the level of the pot, at least until summer when the dry winds finish. But as I say, it's not been growing very fast, not been doing very well, but I'm going to leave this outside, see how it does. If it shows signs that it's going to die, then I will take it in, because I don't want to lose it. So that's all the bamboo seedlings for now. So they're even growing over winter, which I was quite surprised, because the light levels are quite low here in Scotland. But that's an exciting thing to see. So I'll leave them inside as houseplants for at least another year. I'm not sure if I'll put them outside. Eventually I will though, because they are hardy plants. The plants that were growing, that they came from, have been hardy, and they survived the winter of 2010 when we had -15. So these should also be quite hardy. Might not be as hardy as the parents, but I'm sure they can take a small degree of frost. So I'll keep growing them up, and it'll be interesting because as soon as spring and summer comes and we get some strong sunshine, these should all put on a huge amount of growth and start growing really quite fast, because they're quite good little plants as it is at the moment. And as soon as they get more sunlight, they're going to grow, I think, really quite quickly. So that's it for the bamboo, and I'll keep you guys updated as they progress. As I say, it's quite exciting to see how different they all are, even though these three identical conditions, identical plant, they've come from the same seed source. So I'll keep you updated and see how they progress.